Whew, do I have something in store for y'all today? Okay, so I do appreciate y'all tuning in. If you're new to the channel, of course, I deal with esoteric and exoteric information in retrospect to how it influences cultures and so forth. In today's video, of course, we're going to deal with the soul and how to rise from a low state to a higher state. Keep watching. Thanks for tuning in. So this is a very, very important conversation I'm going to have with you today. The first thing I want to talk to you about, though, because I got a lot in store. Obviously, you can see all the bibliography here. So let's deal with if you're going to even be able to understand what I'm saying, because it says the lips of wisdom are sealed except to the ears of understanding. So if you're ready to hear, hopefully this will find you. Okay, here we are. So let's turn to how to actually read, so we'll know how to piece information together, because obviously you see multiple sources here. So if you have a Bible, I'm going to leave all the sources underneath the like button in the description area for you to seek out this information on your own, so you can be on the path of attainment for your soul journey. Okay, so in the Bible, let's turn to Isaiah and let's look at we're going to look at chapter 28. And then we're gonna go over to line 10, okay? Because there it shows us how to actually read. So here it says, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. And then it says, here a little and there a little, meaning here a little from this chapter or there a little from that chapter, or here a little from this book and there a little from that book, because you have to piece it all together because it's fragmented today. We have a group that I like to call the civilization of deception, who are the real crabs, because their goal is, if you're on a path of rising, their goal is to grab you and try to pull you back down by abusing you through their vices, through their sorcery and so forth. And we're going to identify what some of those tricks are in a little bit. So now that we know how to read, let's go into how to actually understand what you are reading. So we can find that in Psalms. So we can go over to the book of Psalms, and we're going to look at chapter 111, and then we're going to also look at verse 10 here. So let's turn there if you have your Bibles, and you can always pause and rewind if you need to, okay? So we have 111. Let's go over to verse 10. So it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. So now we know how to read everything. Now we know how to understand it. So if you're not being obedient to any commandments, you can still continue to watch this video if it found you. But if you actually want to understand the information that's being brought out, you need to be obedient to a set of instructions that was given. And you can find those instructions in the first 5 books that we've been taught to call the Bible. Okay. I would recommend really starting with Leviticus chapter 11, which deals with what you're eating. That's dietary instructions, okay? Because you were built a certain type of way. The organs are very important. And if you don't have the science on that, then you could be putting yourself in a position where you are unable to rise. Okay. So now that we have that information out of the way there. So what we're going to be dealing with in this video, of course, is going to be the kind of talking about the exegesis of the soul. If you haven't listened to that audio book recording, I will link it in the description area underneath the like button. And that's kind of what we're going to be expounding on today. What I want to start doing is having very intense studies on maybe versions or portions of a book that I might actually make available through an audiobook for you. But I'll always leave the sources for you so you can seek out this information on your own. So in the exegesis of the soul, what we're dealing with is we're dealing with a fall. Okay, we're dealing with a fall, and we're trying to get that soul to get back to the state in which it fell from. Okay, now when we think about that, we have to have the concept of what we call heaven. So let's just say heaven is the highest, your highest state, and then we have hell, which is basically your lowest state, and we would identify that as what? The animal. Okay, the animal, because you have to be turned into a human. Okay, even though you have an arms, legs, arms, and a head, those that are walking around today do not all share that same characteristics of being a human. They just have animal. They're an animal with a little bit more rational qualities and so forth, but there's an alchemical process that has to take place within you in order for that transformation to take place. And then there's levels beyond that as well. Okay, so we're going to deal with this on the first level. This, of course, is going to be, let's call this part 1, and then I'll have a part 2 where it gets really, really intense for you. Okay, all right, so let's deal with the exegesis of the soul. You'll find that in a book called the Nag Hammadi Scriptures. I do have another video where it goes into how this was discovered and so forth, and I'll link that also in the description box. But the portion that we're going to be looking at is the exegesis of the soul here, and then we have the fall of the soul. So let's take a look at that. So it says she became a poor lost widow. Okay, it says she was helpless, and no one even gave ear to her in her pain. She got nothing from the adulterers, right, except the filth they left when they had sex with her. All right. The children she had from the adulterers are mute, blind, and sickly. They are disturbed. Okay. So if you notice here on the board, we are identifying the children as the monsters. So you have monsters that are walking around here today, and they're mute, blind, sickly. They have no understanding. They're wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge. Okay, so let's jump over here to Genesis and let's get more on that when we talk about having no knowledge, because we had a situation that took place in the Genesis here where someone was trying to come and approach someone and give them information as to the state that they were in. So let's look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 5. I am going to move quickly. You can stop. Try to process what I said, rewind it if you need to. Okay, so we have Genesis chapter 3, and then we're looking at line 5 here. It says, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as what? Gods. And what's the qualification of being a God? Knowing good and evil. Okay, right here it says the qualification is knowing good and evil. So if you have the knowledge of good and evil, then that makes you as gods. And we know that being a god is not an issue, because in Psalms it says ye are gods, and then we have in the writings accredited to who people have been taught to call Jesus, he says, isn't it written in your law that what? Ye are gods. So being a god is not a problem here. What we have as a problem is that there's this civilization of deception who don't want you to be a god. And that's the reason why I call them the civilization of deception, because they have created systems to prevent you from rising to this state. So like, for example, if you look out today, you try to approach someone and you tell them what? That they're naked. To them, they don't know that they're naked. They're like, what do you mean? You know, I'm wearing this because it makes me feel good and all this other kind of nonsense, right? That means that they don't have eyes to see. They are what? Wise to do evil, right? Which is down there, but to do good, which is up here, they have no knowledge, because you have to have knowledge in order to rise from the evil hell to the good, which is the heaven, which is what? Within you. Okay, it's within you. All right, so that's what we're dealing with in this lesson. Let's jump over to a book called the Hermetica. Now, this is volume 1. This is volume 1, and I'll leave all these sources are going to be underneath the like button for you here. But let's look at this because there's something written in here. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at page 335. This is a conversation happening with Asclepius. So I'm just moving on down here. And this is what it says. It says, for if a man understands the design of what? God, and in this context is intellectu rationis divinae, okay, which means having an intelligent way of having rationale and being able to discern. Okay, all right, so it says, for if a man understands the design of God, by which all things are ordained, he will despise what? All, not some, but all material things, and his vices will be healed. Okay, but when folly and ignorance continues, all the vices grow in strength and lacerate the soul with incurable sores. Okay, and infected and corrupted by the poison, it says the soul breaks out in tumors. All right, so to speak, save in this case of those souls who have what? Been cured. Okay, it says by the sovereign remedy of knowledge and intelligence. So that's the reason why people are destroyed, for a lack of knowledge. So then when we deal with this material stuff, and you hear me calling the civilization of deception, but in the Kabbalah, it deals with some people called intruders, and it basically it has something very interesting that it says about them. Let me see if I can find it, because I really want to share this with you. It says, let's see here, and we're looking at, let's see what page that we're looking at. It kind of deals with them on page 321. It does. But I wanted to find the spot where it is written, where it says that these intruders create something called luxury. I wanted to find that. I might have to circle back to this because that is the material stuff that puts you in a position where you can't really rise. So let's see. But it does say on page 321 that the intruder shall be exterminated at the time when this shall be accomplished. So there's something that you have to accomplish from within yourself that will, what? Exterminate the intruders, because it says the kingdom of heaven is where? It's on the inside of you, and it is on the outside of you. He who knows himself knows that he is what? The child of the living Father, right? But if you do not know yourself, where are you dwelling? In poverty, right? Which is your lowest self. And it is you, the body, the Jacob, who is that poverty. So that's what we want to figure out. So I'll put the writing up here on the screen somewhere, just for the part where it talks about how they create luxury. OK, so these are the vices. This is the material stuff that you have to kind of get rid of. It says you can be in the world, but don't be of it, so to speak. So let's move on. So now we have the prostitution of the soul. So what that is basically getting into, and this is just an introductory, this is part one. I'm going to get a little bit more intense and advanced on this in part two. But then the prostitution, let's read here in the exegesis. It goes on to say, the Holy Spirit prophesies in many places about the prostitution of the soul. It says the Spirit said in the prophet Jeremiah, if a husband divorces his wife and she goes and takes another man, can she ever go back to him again? Okay. Has not such a woman utterly defiled herself? Now, what we're talking about is the soul. But before there can be a prostitution of the body, there first becomes a prostitution of the soul, because that's what leads to the prostitution of the body. So then you have these various emotional refreshment groups out here. I have a couple of written up here, like jobs, education, religions, and so forth, acquaintances, and then the list can go on and on. You can kind of put in what you think your abusers are, because you are married to these things, and now you have left your first husband, right? So it happens within the soul first, then it goes over to the body. So if you want to cure it, then you have to start from within first. Let's keep reading. Then it says, has not such a woman utterly defiled herself? You played the whore with many shepherds, okay, many shepherds, and you return to me, said the Lord. Lift up your eyes and see clearly where you went whoring, right? Where you're not sitting in the streets, defiling the land with your whoring and your vices, and you took many shepherds as a way of stumbling for you. You were shameless with everyone. You did not call on me as a companion or father or guardian of your what? Virginity. So what we're dealing with is we are at a state now where we need to turn the wound from the outside back to the inside, because how it works is the womb of the soul is external, like male external parts and so forth. So it's on the outside, and while it's there, you have the civilization of deception, the intruders that are feeding you with what they have identified as luxury, the materialistic cares of this world, and it's making the womb very, very fat, and then you are developing monsters, and then you look out today, what's walking around, all you see is monsters. Okay, it's like looking at a cartoon in most situations. All right, so when we want to cure all of that, and then we want to fast from the world, we want to turn the wound to the inside. That is what a baptism is. A baptism has nothing to do with going out and getting dipped inside of some water. Okay, has nothing to do with that. The baptism is when you turn the wound from the outside to the inside. Okay, remember in the book of Revelation where it talks about this woman who is in travail to give birth, and there's something that's waiting to devour the seed. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. So that's how you identify what a baptism is. Okay, I just had some corn and some wine because I'm being sustained with wine and corn. So you can get that in the book of Genesis. But so we're dealing with that. Now, it's very, very important to realize who these intruders are, or who these monsters of iniquity are. And we can jump over to, I have it open here. That's great. We can jump over here to the book of Jubilees. Let's look at chapter 15 here. And let's start at line 29. It says, for the command is ordained for a what? A covenant. Okay. It says a covenant here, that they, who are the they, that they should observe it for how long? It says forever among all the children of who? It says Israel here, but we know we're not talking about a land. We're talking about the children of Jacob. Okay. All right. So it says for Ishmael and his sons and his brothers and who? Esau. It says the Lord did not cause to approach him. All right. It says, and he chose them what? Not because they are the children of Abraham, because he knew them, but he chose who? Jacob and his people. Okay. Israel, the children of who? Jacob, to be his people. And he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst all the children of men. For there are what? Many nations and many peoples, and all are his. And over all hath he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. But over the seed of Jacob here, the children of Jacob, Israel here, it says, he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his angels and his spirits, and at the hand of his powers, in order that he may what? Do what? Preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his and he may be theirs from henceforth. And it actually says forever here. It actually does say forever right there, just in case you didn't know that. Now, like I said, I'll put that in the underneath the like button for you. So now we understand whenever we're out there in the field and so forth, and you're talking and you're trying to raise the vibratory rate of everyone that's out there, and you come to situations where you find that some are just not really getting it, it's primarily because there could be a spirit of deep sleep on them, or it could just mainly mean that they're not of the stock. So you just have to kind of dust your feet off and keep it moving. If somebody is involved with a lower level of information, it is not your responsibility to talk bad about them, because maybe that's what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. It says when the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. Okay. So let's move on. So now we're dealing with the restoration of the soul, because we have to restore it because it has failed to this lower state down here, and has been kicked out of the garden, and so to speak. So let's deal with the restoration here. So in the Exegesis of the Soul, it goes on to say, as long as the soul keeps running here and there, having sex with whomever she meets and defiling herself, she will suffer what she deserves. But when she perceives the trouble she is in and weeps before the Father and repents, it says the Father will pity her. It says he will make her womb turn from the what? From the outside, what? Back to the inside, so that the soul will recover her proper character. All right. It is not so with a woman. The womb of the body is inside the body like the other internal organs, but the womb of the soul is turned to the outside like male sex organs, which are external. When the womb of the soul by the Father's will turns to the inside, it says she is what? Then what? Baptized. There you have it. So if someone is encouraging you to get out there and, we want to get away from a lot of this external stuff, look at what I'm doing and all that. We want to kind of go within. We need to go within, because that's where this whole thing is now. It says when that which is perfect is come, that which is hidden from you will be revealed unto you. OK, and that's what we're dealing with here. We gotta get it right, because we've been getting it wrong, and we've been trying everything that they've said. Here's something that's kind of interesting. So in the Hymn of the Pearl, you can get this in Bentley Leighton's Gnostic scriptures. The Nag Hammadi and this is they're kind of similar, but it's good to just kind of Deuteronomy chapter 4 and 2 says, "You should not change my word." So it's very good to kind of just see if you can get as close to the original as possible. So in here, it talks about a pearl. It talks about a pearl. It talks about how you left the state of your house, and then when you made it down to Egypt. Now, what we need to realize, guys, is we're not necessarily talking about a land here. We're talking about Egypt being down here, bondage. The bondage of the soul is Egypt. Okay, so when you went down to Egypt and then you were approached with the abusers, it says that you drunk something. It says that you drunk of, what they had, and you forgot. You see what I'm saying? You lost your memory. You forgot that you was a son of the great king, but then you became subject to who? To their king. Okay. And who is the king down here? You see what I'm saying? There's a king down here. So you became subject to their king, and you forgot everything. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we're really, really dealing with is we, like, for example, it talks about how Jacob went up a ladder and everything like that. And then when he reached the top and he saw the face, he said he called it what? He said he called it Peniel. Okay, Peniel. All right. So it looks like that there's a journey that you need to take from within to where you're going from the lowest state up to the highest state. So if there's a seed that sits underneath your gastro tract system, it might be in your best interest, Leviticus chapter 11, to deal with the dietary law, because the civilization of deception puts up these billboards, right? It's on every restaurant, they're promoting all of the abominable things that the father mother principle has said is not clean, but they're saying that it is clean. You see what I'm saying? So they are the complete opposite because they hate the Most High. So when you look at Psalms chapter 83, you'll be able to kind of get what we're saying there, because there are those who are confederate. They might disagree on that. They might disagree on this, but they are confederate against thee, because in the book of Jubilees, it talks about how they can't get there. You see what I'm saying? So what we have had happen, of course, is we have had a perversion of the knowledge, and they have created purgatory to where they can get to certain levels, and then they've created systems to prevent those who's supposed to be actually going up to the highest level from actually getting there. And then they have been enjoying things at the height of their evolution, which is mainly materialistic and animalistic. Basically an animal, all it cares about is sex, food, and shelter. So that's really their main objective, with that kind of what they think is luxury. But with us, it says things are a little bit different. You see what I'm saying? Because if you've been around for a while, you don't really care about that kind of stuff when everything actually kind of belongs to you. So we want to kind of narrow that thing down a little bit and understand what the Sabbath is really, really all about. This is the introductory. This is really just trying to introduce you to some text so you can go out and acquire the text, and then we can actually get deeper, take a deeper dive into this thing, and then in part 2, we'll be able to piece some of this stuff together for you. So some text that I want to introduce you to. Obviously, we went over the Hermetica. There's another book here called The Ladder of Lights, okay, which is very, very key for what we're going to go over, and I'll leave all this underneath the like button. Then we have the Nag Hammadi scriptures here. Obviously, we have the Bible, and then we have the book of Jubilees, which I'll leave that there for you as well. We have the Gnostic scriptures here. We have the Light of Egypt that we're going to be getting into in part 2. We're going to be going more so in the Kabbalah for you as well. Actually, we're going to be getting into the astral body for you. And then this one would be a good one to pick up, and it's the Kabbalistic Encyclopedia. And then we'll be looking at that. Now, I know the title might sound a little suspect for those who have been conditioned by the abusers, but The Secret of Satan. This is actually a pretty good one too, and we're going to be getting into this one, of course, in part 2 as well. So that's going to be the text. So in part 1, I just wanted to kind of give you more of a understanding of what the soul is and what we're dealing with in terms of rising from within and moving from the animalistic version. There's a reason why you have these Olmec heads and so forth and all that kind of stuff, and you see these heads and everything. So, but then you have the Sphinx, of course, where you have the head and then you have an animal-looking body that's kind of laying down. So what we're going to have a comprehensive practitioner way of laying down the animal and rising up the God principle, so you can be reconnected back up to the Father, and we can raise the vibratory rate of all this that's happening around us, and get in sync with the galactic community here. So that's really the goal. It's way more than just what you get on the surface level, which is what the masses of the people get. But earlier I mentioned to you, it says, when that which is perfect is come, then that which is hidden will be revealed unto you. I want to share something with you. So in Jeremiah it talks about something here, because it's very important for you to know who your enemies are. And for some reason, you know, with this whole love thing that's been passing around, people have actually forgotten it. So let's look at Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 30. It says, when thou art spoiled, we're talking about when thou hast fallen, thou are spoiled down there. It says, what wilt thou do? Though thou clothest thyself with crimson, right? It says, though thou deckest thee with ornaments of gold, all right, though thou rentest thy face with paintings, in vain shalt thou make thyself fair. It says, thy lovers will despise thee. They will seek thy life. Okay, they will seek thy life. All right, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to bethink ourselves in the land of our captivity. So in the land of the captivity is down here in Egypt, which is bondage. And you are trying to come out of bondage back to the good. And stop being wise to do evil. So let's look at another. There's something else I wanted to bring out here. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 30 real quick. Let's bring that out. And this is the reason why there's probably been a halt on some of this information. Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 1. This is what it says. It says, it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee. It says, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, not the civilization of deception. It says, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, among all the abusers, whether you have been driven. And then 2, it says, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt what? Obey his voice according to all that has been commanded this day, with all thine heart and with all thy soul. If we jump down to line 7, it says, and the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon who? Thine enemies. Who are your enemies? Look at Psalms chapter 83. Okay, look at Psalms chapter 83. And on them that hate thee, it says, which what? Persecuted thee. You see what I'm saying? So that's how we kind of turn this thing around. So this is part 1. This is just really an introduction to this information. I'm going to get a little bit more intense in part 2. If you let me know in the comment section if you've ever had these dreams where you're like kind of falling, maybe around the age of 7, who knows, 7 or 10, but you don't actually hit the ground. You see what I'm saying? You kind of maybe get up out of the sleep before you actually hit the ground. In the comment section, let me know if you've experienced that, because we're going to answer all those questions for you in this series. Okay, so again, I do appreciate you listening. If you gain anything from this video, you know, you can leave a like if you want to, but I'm more interested in having a dialogue with you in the comment section area. And let me know if you're interested in a part 2, you know. So don't forget how to read and how to understand, because we're going to get in a lot of information. I don't want to overwhelm you, but if you found this video, then you were meant to find it. And I'll see you in the next one.